that music.
Party's not a party's a man who fights crime, and we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with John and Dael and a guest who just rhyme with Bat Minutes.
Hello and welcome back to Bat Minute and Robin, the show that's got great stems. I am one of your hosts with the bad stems, John Parker.
In my weakened condition, I'm no match for every minute of Batman and Robin. But I'm gonna try anyway. It's me, Niall the guy.
Can you please just, for the rest of the episode, do that voice?
Of course, I'll try.
You can probably hear we are joined once again by the one, the only Dael Kingsmill.
It's me. Hello.
But we are here to talk about minute 75. Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know. How are we here? The minute starts with vanish.
You may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
This is not my beautiful frozen wife. The minute starts with vanishing feelings, and it ends with weakening conditions. Oh, no.
Oh, now I want to do a YouTube edit of like once in a lifetime just to work in that line. Mr. Freeze do it in the Arnie suit, doing all the David Byrne jittery dances.
Once in a lifetime. So we are back as both Batman and Robin are kind of puzzled as to how their feelings for Ivy just vanished. They just disappeared. Now, I'm puzzled too, because my feelings for Ivy have never faltered, never waned. Waned. That was. I loved Ivy the first time I saw her, and I love her to this day. How dare your feelings wane, you fools.
Yeah, but where do you stand on? Well, actually, even the portrayal of Ivy and Batgirl in this movie, Dael, like as a woman of the world yourself, because of course at the end Batgirl has this whole kind of little it's almost like a feminist tirade at Poison Ivy for using her, her
which
looks and
is
stuff to get ahead.
simultaneously not very feminist. I'm really torn on it because I think that they're so much fun. My big thing is I wish they would just stop focusing on it so much. Like in this minute, there's going to be that thing where he says, I can't believe we were fighting over a bad guy. And Batman says, bad, yes. Guy, definitely not. It's like, okay, can we just is it necessary? And there's that bit where Batgirl later on, she says, I'm Batgirl. And Bruce says, couldn't you be Bat person or Batwoman? It's like, yeah, but she chose her name. Like,
That's true.
There's just this constant highlighting when they're doing the motorcycle race, and it's like, but you're a girl. It's just like, you could just do this movie and not have those lines, and it would be fine. It would be fine.
But it's the 90s, girl power.
Yeah, man. I mean, I love the Spice Girls, but they kind of have a lot to answer for. But no, it's. I am consistently torn, and I think that'll come up again very soon within this minute.
This minute is rife with that kind of
because I mean, okay, it's the elephant in the room. We're on topic. Let's just talk about it right now. We might have to skip back after, but let's talk about it right now. The nice stems though, yeah, buds too, yeah, those are good, right?
Genius writing. They deserve an Oscar.
It's like, as a woman, I'm here and I'm like, this is so objectifying and terrible and bad, and it's not even worth it for the dialogue that he's getting. But as an actor who is invested in good performances, it's also like one of maybe 3 times in this movie that I think George Clooney did a really good job. And so I'm just sitting here, I'm like, I'm so mad at myself, but I love that exchange. I love that. It's so stupid, and I'm so mad at myself, but it's just the timing of it. The delivery, and they're so distracted with other things, but they're just like, okay, but it needs to be said, she's really hot. Like,
and it's like difficult because it's stupid, as you say. yet simultaneously kind of clever because of the plant puns.
It's just so stupid, but it's so good. And you know what? The other tricky thing is, I don't forgive any of the, objectifying transgressions. But having said that, a character like Poison Ivy, you kind of, particularly if you're introducing her to an audience, for many audience members, this would have been like their initial introduction to Poison Ivy. And you kind of can't avoid it. Because her thing is, bewitching and ensnaring men with her wiles. That it's... So, I mean, look, you can't go back after the gorillas, right? That's where I stand on it, is that my logical brain is I should be offended, but my heart and my spirit is going, but I'm having a really good time.
I love all of that. She's one of the... Well, she is, to me, the heart of the movie.
She does such a good job. Can we... Okay, we're not doing this minute in order, and it's my fault, and I apologize, but...
No, this was fine.
I just need to stop and talk about how much I love Uma Thurman and Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie.
Yeah.
For me, Arnie is the thing pulling me through this film and making me love it. Because he just... none of his dialogue makes any sense for most of the film.
No.
Not even a lick of sense. No, and they're not brought on by anything. Nothing is spurring those parts. He's just I thought up another ice word, let me say it. It's not banter. It's just isolated one-liners that aren't even that good. But
just even when he has to say the word freeze, every time it has to be freeze. He has to elongate it.
But he's bringing it. He never drops his energy level. He is such a joy to watch the whole time because he brings this weird pathos to it as well. If you look at that scene where he's in prison and he attacks the guards and he goes to leave, but he's out of the ice beam. And then he's dying and he's but he goes all in. He's 110% in, which, I mean, maybe it's so strange because, of course, he is famous for playing a character who does not emote. But most of the time, Arnie's problem is that he acts way over the top, but it was perfect for this movie. And then combine that with some stellar costuming and some of the greatest makeup work I have ever seen.
Hell yeah.
His standard Freeze look, his Freeze who's getting too warm look with his creepy, his eyes going red, incredible. And then you see that footage of him as a scientist, and he's first turning into Freeze, and he's got those crazy veins all over. The makeup work is incredible, and Arnold Schwarzenegger does a fantastic job. And then you've got Uma Thurman over here, who's just when you see her fight scene, I mean, I know it's not my minute, it'll come up, but her every time she's just let me just do a pose real quick. And it's the greatest thing. It's the greatest decision that has ever been made. And I love that this is sort of my last minute, because my greatest upset with this film was I mean, silly me, I kind of thought that there was this really nice sort of dynamic going on with Freeze and with Ivy where they just kind of respected each other as bad guys, right? Because she couldn't use her pheromones on him, so he's just not affected. And he's look, all I'm interested in is my wife. That's literally their whole thing. And so they're just she's that's not a man, that's our god. She's this dude is great. He is also a force of nature. And he's oh, you're a scientist and I get you. They had this great dynamic of just mutual respect and okay, let's do villainy together. And I was so upset when the movie turned on that and had Ivy kick out the tube and try to kill Nora and be we'll rule together, and I was please no, go back to the other thing. I loved that. So this minute is literally the last we get of that energy between them.
Yeah,
but it's just so wonderful because they're both doing such incredible jobs. They understood the assignment. They came in and they were like, all right, you want us to be cartoon characters? I can do that for you. And then when they're in scenes together, it's even better.
I think she had during the escape, she had a minute where Uma Thurman delivers like two of my favorite lines in the whole movie, where she does that, I need to go back to get the diamonds from my hideout. She's just like, I'll help you grab your rocks. Just like, it's just all raunch. And then later on, he's like, oh, you go retrieve my wife. And she just turns and smacks him.
You never told me about a wife. Yeah.
That's great delivery, though.
So good. And again, the script is so stupid, but also I'm just living for it.
Yeah. That is also the thing too. Like, I brought it up a couple of weeks back. I was reading, someone has done a master's thesis that you can get as a PDF online about a negative view of Poison Ivy in this movie, and one of them is that she's a homewrecker, and the fact that she goes and tries to kill his wife, and even on top of the whole, you never said anything about a wife and stuff, is that's falling into old tropes and stuff like that. So it is very like. I was like, I can kind of see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it definitely bugged me. Because, it felt unnecessary, right? Like, there was no point in the story that required that to I guess it does become a thing when he's, like, mad at Batman. But he was already planning to freeze Gotham and kill Batman. Like, that was not a new thing. He just had a new motivation for it. So, I didn't really see the need for it. But, like, whatever. It's
and
fine.
I didn't see her falling for him necessarily. Like, she might try and use her wiles to get people to do things for her, and she might be kind of drawn to Freeze because that doesn't work on him, and that's interesting. But I never thought that meant that she wanted to be with him.
I guess I kind of like her killing Nora in that is like, it's like, it shows you how villainous she really is in terms of like the pheromone doesn't work on him, but I can still manipulate him by like, I want to know he's into his wife. So just like, oh, look, Batman killed your wife. I'm sorry. Like, and just, and she
showing up in those glasses and that coat.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's so
good. Those are now we are getting into other people's.
Yeah, we fully are, but
you
all I mean is just that these villains are my favorite Batman villains since Michelle Pfeiffer. Like, it's
I mean, well, one thing I should ask though, Dale, because of course you were the origin point of my life revelation that Jack Nicholson was not regarded as being high.
Yeah.
But I have to ask about Arnie, because the way they portray him in this movie, where like Ivy's really into him, misbehaving earlier in the movie. She just
presumably his wife.
Yeah. So they're positing that Arnold Schwarzenegger, Victor Freeze, is like sex on legs in this movie. Arnie himself in his own life doesn't do anything to dissuade that notion either.
I fully accept that there are some women who would be attracted to Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't get it, but that's for them. That's for them, and that's fine.
That's the best, most diplomatic way of putting it. Yeah.
You truly are Switzerland this week.
Yeah, I truly am Switzerland this week. I am, except for George Clooney. Yeah. Actually, you know what? This scene, the fact that he has his, possibly only good delivery of the film in this minute, take that, George. It does make me wonder whether part of it is that so much of Bruce's dialogue for this whole movie is sort of fatherly Bruce Wayne. Like, it's responsible father figure for Dick. You know, he's always having these conversations where he's like, you have to stop being in love with Ivy. Don't go motorbiking off a statue. You know, he's having all these things. And it's just really... It's tough dialogue, particularly when I feel like George Clooney, you bring in George Clooney to be charming billionaire that everyone is in love with, Bruce Wayne, rather than dad who's not very good at being a dad, Bruce Wayne.
That's always my problem when you have Robin with Batman. Like, he then has to be like that, kind of, because he's got to take on the father role.
Which is fascinating to me, because I feel like Batman is really bad at filling that. Like, surely half of the structure of the Bat family should tell us that Batman didn't do that enough. Like, he's like, yes, I have adopted you, child. Now we will go and we will fight heavily armed criminals, you know? Like, he should be all like, yeah, Robin, go. Leap off that statue. Fear isn't real, you know?
That'd be better.
Yeah, it'd be way better.
Yeah, I think it's, again, has to stem back to Alfred, though, because it is all coming from, like, well, how do you deal with your problems?
Yeah.
And like, what kind of father figures do you have
yeah,
going on?
You've
like,
changed
well, Bruce
me.
was
I
raised
am
by this
fully
guy.
accepting that headcanon now.
Yeah. So like, and that is like, I think that's what you get into, like, even in the comics and stuff, where it's like Dick Grayson becomes a big brother to Tim Drake and stuff, and it is kind of like Dick having to go half the time. Like, yeah, Bruce really messed up, man. Like, you know, I can be a good big brother to you. This guy ain't a dad. Let me tell you that. Like,
I've just started watching Titans on Netflix.
Oh yeah,
and you know it has its flaws and its good points, but boy, they go right in on Bruce being a terrible father and Dick being like, Jason Todd comes in and Dick is like, man, just please, can you not use him as your father figure, please? I don't want to be your father figure, but I will be if you're gonna choose Bruce instead. Like, anyway.
For your own sake, I'm going to have to step in.
yeah.
So, I will say, though, in terms of like the dialogue that's in screen here, though, I think it's a little bit of improv, though, because I think in the actual line in the script is like, Robin says, "I'm totally over her, positively." Batman says, "Me too. Great stems, though," and they just gotta go, But I think it might have been Chris O'Donnell went Buds too, and then Clooney naturally went like, "Oh yeah, those are nice." Like, that's why it feels it has a bit more pep to it.
Feels a little more
it,
natural.
Yeah, it actually is. Like, it's two guys joking about on set, been like, "Yeah, we're just having it's casual sexism, but we're having a good time at least."
But it's the perfect dialogue for the way you said, Dale, that Clooney acts in this movie. That kind of downbeat. You know, he doesn't really emote, but that line works. If you oversold that line, it wouldn't be funny.
Yeah.
If you were like, yeah, those are nice, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help but wonder if Clooney would have been an okay Batman, Bruce Wayne specifically, in a Tim Burton directed Batman. If that makes sense. Like, I'm not saying it is the direction, but I just feel like the Tim Burton ones, yeah, they had silly stuff, but there was always so much darkness kind of evening it out that having that kind of downplayed delivery, I think maybe would fit. Whereas in this one, it's so, like, it skyrockets into silliness without nearly as much darkness kind of tempering that. So, I don't know, you get these glimmering moments where you're like, there it is, there's the sparkle, I knew it was there, I knew it existed. But on the whole, you just need to be playing it at a much higher level than he was willing to, clearly.
Yeah. Well, it's weird, too, because like the way this plays out now as well, when he discovers... do you guys get the vibe that he's just discovered this secret panel? Because the way he kind of goes like, oh, here we are, and just sort of like opens the
No,
thing.
it feels like he knew all along.
It looks like they're standing in an elevator. Like, Chris O'Donnell's looking around. He's like, oh, we're in a freezer. What's here? What's going on? Bruce is just like, there it is. Boop.
But that's the thing, because initially I thought, well, okay, maybe the police scoped it out first and they told him there's a secret thing. But then they would know what was behind it. But they act surprised with what's behind it.
They just thought they'd let Batman press the button first, just in case it was rigged to some explosives.
Yeah, he can deal with that. It's fine. I don't blame him.
Yeah. But yeah, so within this delivery, we do see, as we alluded to in the other episode there, John, where we saw this thing with the button was hidden behind before, didn't clock the joke in that it's sesame seed chicken.
Yeah. The draft explained this to me, actually, when I was combing through that.
This was annoying for me because I think I was after editing the episode. I was like, we kept saying the word sesame, and I was like, oh, God damn it. That's the joke.
Gosh. You already said it, and I didn't get it until just now. I was like, why is that? I don't get it. Why is that a funny joke? It took me that long.
Open sesame, baby.
Open sesame. You know, my favorite cinematic joke of all time is in Aladdin, and the Prince of Thieves. When there's the password is open sesame to get into the secret whatever, and the guards come from Agrabah later on and they're like, yeah, I heard the password and I can get us in here. And he goes, open Caraway! And nothing happens. And I say that every time I open Caraway! Anyway.
Now I am going to say that.
I like the idea, though, that this could be in canon, that the reason Batman figures this out so quickly is because I met this guy, and he's all about the puns. So as soon as he walks in and he sees Sesame Seed Chicken, it's like, here we are. This is it. That's what we're looking for.
It's more of his detectiving. I love that.
Oh, I didn't even think about it in universe, though. I just thought it's the filmmakers having a joke, open sesame. Yeah, but of course Mr. Freeze would do this. Of course he would. He loves a pun.
I thought this whole scenario, this one thing is like, this is an ice cream factory. Why have they got all these frozen sesame seed chicken?
That's my next question. Well, it's explicitly an ice cream place. It's not just a frozen goods place.
Unless it shares a building with the King's chicken people. And then where he had in the outside was like a snowman's head with a big top hat. If you go to the other side of the street, it's like a king's face with a big crown. And it's just all meshed into one building. It's like, we've been economic. This is how people work together. This is the way that Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze should be working together.
Or maybe it's teaching us all about diversification of portfolios. You know, it's like, well, they're an ice cream company, but they've got their fingers in many pies.
But yeah, of course, then we go in and Robin, ever the keen observationalist.
It's Nora Freeze.
Somehow still and perfectly looking pristine in that tank, even though no one's cleaned it for days. And this guy's own fish, let me tell you.
well, he's got a good filter. You probably just had the basic filter now.
I assume it's some kind of a preserving fluid, not exactly formaldehyde, but something that's
Well, it's Bacta from Star Wars.
Yeah, it's a Bacta tank.
That's the one thing, though. We were you mentioned earlier in the week, John, about like, wouldn't we, get Alfred, Mr. Freeze, make a suit for him and stuff. I think they have done it in comics more recently. I'll look more into it, but like, wouldn't Mr. Freeze, after everything has happened to him, would he not be like, I don't age and stuff? I'm frozen in this permanent condition. Couldn't he just replicate the thing for Nora and put her in a suit? And there you go.
Yeah, but I think he doesn't want that for her, though. He wants her to be okay.
Wants her to be able to feel the warmth of the sun.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Yeah,
because when you in this situation, you wouldn't care about yourself. Like he's like, it doesn't matter. I'm messed up. That's fine. I don't want that for her, though.
Would it be better though if it were like work on his own condition, and then if he can cure himself? Although, but then maybe her actual illness would come back. So that's
he needed to watch that one Christmas special of Doctor Who with the flying fish. Learn a valuable lesson about just enjoying the life you have while you have it. That's what he needed. He needed to just watch that episode and go, maybe my wife doesn't want to be cryogenically frozen until I can come up with a cure.
I think that was a thing, actually, that really, really reminded me. And then the new 52, they had a rejig of Mr. Freeze where Nora was frozen in 1943 by her family. And then he was just a scientist who was trying to find out the cure for her.
Oh, what?
And then because
I kind of hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he had dementia, early onset dementia. So he starts believing that she is his wife.
I hate that. I don't like that at all, because I have great respect, the most respect for versions of Batman where they have Mr. Freeze, and they just go, you know what? He's allowed to cure his wife. Because it always bugs me. Like in some of the video games, they're like, Mr. Freeze is doing evil specifically and only in the name of curing his wife. It's like he robbed this place because he needed this thing for the cure. And I'm just like, just let him fix her. Like, just let him cure her. And then he'll not be a villain anymore. Like, please, can we look at the, long-term solution for a minute?
Well, that's...
But so many of the video games have just been like, nah, let's stop him. Let's stop him right now.
In this,
So
he should be allowed
yeah.
to do his research, shouldn't he? Like, okay, arrest him, lock him up, that's fine, but let him do that though.
I
Yeah.
wonder if there was because we did have
We'll come
Pamela
up at some
Isley.
point.
Pamela Isley did always. She approached Bruce Wayne with her portfolio and another great delivery from Uma of like, we says like, millions of people would die from cold and hunger alone. Like, acceptable losses in the battle to save the planet. I wonder if there was any point when Mr. Freeze came to Bruce Wayne and he was also like, nah. Like, it's always him. It's the same thing with Edward Nygma. He's like, I want to do this thing. Nah. It's like, all right, you got the Riddler. Mr. Freeze came to him. He's like, nah, I can't do it, Victor. It's like, damn, now you got Mr. Freeze. And Poison Ivy came. She was already a supervillain, but she did give him the chance of being like, I'm going to be nice.
Question of like, would the Joker be the Joker if Batman weren't there? But the answer is no. He's the only one that it was really on him. Every other villain, was created by Bruce Wayne.
Except in the Joel Schumacher. Yeah, his Joel Schumacher's version of Batman. He's like the modern day Marvel Tony Stark, where it's like, yeah, he I know he's a hero and all, but like, a lot of these things are his fault, really. It's like, even when he's dead, Jake Gyllenhaal's coming from behind the scenes, been like, you know who I really hated? Tony Stark. Like, he's dead. For the love of God, get over it. But I was going to finish up about that New 52 thing, but that is essentially the story. It's like, it's a bit. It really reminded me, actually, and I think it came out around the same time, of that Doctor Who episode you're talking about, Dale, where it's just like, that's a bit like, that woman who was frozen, and then that kid
Someone was inspired.
Yeah, but who was inspired by who? That's the thing.
Find out here, Bat fans.
We'll just go quickly Google the date.
We get the. Sorry, did you finish that? Let me just.
Yeah.
We get the villains here hiding below, which again made me think of Star Wars. We've had the Bacta tank, and now they're hiding down here like Han Solo does in the goddamn Falcon, because he's got those little those grates that pull up, isn't he? He smuggles things in.
And what a great shot that is as well, to have them so brightly coloured and just standing.
She's
standing
neon,
so clearly visible.
You'd see her anyway. You'd see her in a dark room.
They're not even speaking all that loudly either.
No.
As soon as she's like, I'm no match for the batted bird. He's there.
They hear it echoing around this room. Like, what was that?
Yeah. Where's Bane at this point, too? Is he standing next to him?
No, he's in the car.
Bane, wait outside. Yeah.
He's got his fedora on. He's behind the wheel. He's waiting.
Doing a few miladies to everyone on the way back. But I should actually say too, this actress that's a model in the tank, which is one of those things of like, of course it's a model in the tank, but for years I was always like, that's amazing. Like, that's such a good effect of this woman being Nora Freeze.
No, I always thought it was a woman too. Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it was like some trick photography to make it look as if she was underwater. It was like, no, we just made a model of her and put it underwater. But yeah, the woman who this is Vendela Kursbaum.
Great name.
Great name.
Yeah, she is a supermodel from Sweden. Apparently during the 90s, she was a big deal, much like Elle Macpherson, who also features in this movie elsewhere. She was like a Sports Illustrated cover girl and stuff. She's appeared in a couple of things, not many acting roles. I don't think acting was her forte, really. She's in, after this, The Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan, where she was the bridal gown model. I don't know if anyone has any memories of The Parent Trap.
Vague memories. The basic outline of it. I can't remember most of that.
I wasn't really allowed to watch The Parent Trap because Mum found the premise so horrifying that they would just be like, you know what, let's just take one each. Let's just take one twin each and not tell them about each other and never talk about each other ever again.
It's pretty messed up.
But was Sister okay? It's like, well, they're reuniting, so that's fine. Like, that's a happy ending.
We never had Sister.
Oh man! Oh, you missed out, Dale. It's on Netflix now.
Maybe on like pay TV they did, but we didn't have pay TV.
Plus, that's a bit different because in Sister, The Parent Trap, they're their actual parents, right? Whereas in Sister, they're adopted from minute one. Like, they don't haven't their parents died?
Yeah. And Lisa and Ray take them in, and we're like, oh. Oh, Dale, you gotta see God's Sister. The joy of seeing Lisa and Ray in their will they won't they relationship. Oh, fantastic.
No, genuinely, they're the best thing in the show. They'll hold up now for like, I was gonna say adult viewing, but that sounds a little bit suspect.
Yeah, and also the theme tune does contain the greatest lyric of all time of shaking up the family tree with sibling synchronicity. Which is just like, oh, beautiful.
Good rhyme.
Sister.
I think that might have been the inspiration behind every Bat-Minute outro, was just that, chasing that line to come up with something as good. But yeah, Vendela. So she's in The Parent Trap. She was also in an episode of Blossom way back in the day. Murphy Brown, Larry Sanders Show, Muppets Tonight. And apparently she was also in a very high-profile advert for Baked Lays, which is like it's a type of, I'm going to call them crisp potato chip, I guess.
Yeah, Lay's are the company who own Walkers over here. So they're the same.
Wait. I'm just gonna stick with Lay's. I know what Lay's chips are from television. I'm gonna cling to that knowledge.
They bought our crisp company Walkers and completely changed all the packaging to just be Lay's. The only difference is the name.
Ew.
Yeah, it's clever.
Walker's got laid.
Just secretly own it. You know what I mean? Like, just don't plaster your name all over the thing. Just rake in the money.
Yeah, they always do that though. They always do. You know, they.
But yeah, Vendela. I looked up see if we got any interviews with her. In '97, she was on an episode of Conan O'Brien, but the interview wasn't all that fascinating. Around this time, she did get married, which is weird because she within the interview, Conan says something I never knew, where he's like, "I would say congratulations, but you're not supposed to congratulate the bride."
What?
And I was looking, I was like, "What's this?" And apparently, it again dates back.
I heard this recently, and you know where? In an episode of Good Witch, the Hallmark series
Okay.
on Netflix, based on the series of films, where Martha Tinsdale, Mayor of Middleton, warns them all that you're not meant to congratulate the bride because you're meant to congratulate the groom on getting such a good catch.
Yeah, it's one of those things that goes back to good old-fashioned sexism.
How strange is that?
I think it was one of those things. I looked it up and they explained it as like, if you were a woman back in the day, it was sort of taken that you were going to be married to somebody. So it was more like you congratulate the guy for getting the catch, basically.
God.
Where she was just more like, you're
so
waiting
upset.
to, it's insane. But apparently now it's just so out of like the fact that like we didn't know about it until recently. And even in like looking it up, most people who are like they're experts in language and stuff are like, oh yeah, it's been out of vogue for like 80 years.
Hey, and I tell you what, good. It should stay out of vogue. That's terrible.
Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah.
But prior to her getting married, she actually dated George Clooney for a while. So,
No.
What
must be
era?
weird for him.
During
what
this?
year? What year?
It was 1996, so it would have been like...
So he comes into the room and there's a model of his ex-girlfriend?
That's weird. That is
That's
weird.
so weird. There's a model of his ex-girlfriend floating in a tank.
Oh my! I mean, the weirdest thing then too is like, oh yeah, that model went missing after production, and George was just like, he was very sweaty when he was asked about it and stuff.
That's so weird.
Maybe he got her the gig and then they broke up. And he's like, oh god damn it, she's still on the picture.
You think to yourself, look, she's what did you say, Swedish, something like that? Like, you think to yourself, I'm never going to run into her again. No, you will. And it'll be under the strangest possible circumstances.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's why they went with the model underneath, because it was just like, oh, George doesn't want to have to see her and stuff. It's a really bad breakup.
Word, yeah.
So. I know, actually, weirdly enough, and the site was just like, who's dating who and stuff. Apparently, they went out for 3 months, and it was like an amicable breakup because Clooney was like playing the field at the time.
That sounds very Clooney. I imagine he has an amicable breakup with everybody, but it's probably more amicable from his point of view.
That sounds exactly what the storyline with Bruce Wayne and Elle Macpherson was meant to be in this film.
Yeah.
If either of them was doing anything good.
Yeah, exactly.
In some ways, though, the fact that like Joel Schumacher's hired 2 models in this movie to be sort of like forgettable wordless parts. Like we even had a whole thing going with our headcanon is that she's not really Bruce's girlfriend. It's more of she's his beard. It's a business transaction where he's like, I'm paying you to pretend to be my girlfriend.
My goodness, I love that theory.
But it's almost like, is Joel Schumacher making like a statement about supermodels where it's like, yes, they're these beautiful women who are just, isn't it tragic that they're just paid to be like not listened to and just put there to look pretty and stuff?
I think in general, Joel Schumacher's approach to women existing in this film is just like, he's like, they pretty. And then apart from that, he's like, question marks?
That's all he knows, yeah.
To be fair to Joel, he's just like everybody pretty. That's his whole thing. It's just like I hired.
That's true. That's true. In his defense, the opening shots were of the bat butts. So you know.
Yeah. That's his whole thing, isn't it? Like I'm gonna make everybody look hot.
But beyond George Clooney, Vendela, as she is professionally known, also used to go out with John. There's a bit of throwback for us. Ooh. John Peters.
Oh, I thought you were going to say John Cena, the way you built that up. John Peters. Oh God! What? So she's kind of connected to a lot of people in the movie industry, then. So it makes sense why they might try and get her roles, even if she's not really into acting.
Yeah. But I was happy to see John Peters' name pop up again because we talked about him in our recent Superman Lives episode.
Oh boy, did we talk about him!
Yeah, revived. We hadn't talked about him since '89. It's like, oh yeah, remember that nut job, John Peters.
It turns out he's even crazier than we thought.
It's like, oh, everything you've heard about him, it's all true. Like he is, and even when he's lying about it not being true, he slips up and reveals how true it is just through his conversation.
Yeah. Oh,
like fighting people to the floor to get the, it's always, oh my God.
So was she with him before Clooney?
Yeah. I think they went out like in the early 90s and stuff, just after John Peters had been with Kim Basinger and stuff.
So basically, she's got a Batman fetish.
Yeah. Maybe she was just trying to work her way into the movies. She's just like, I gotta cling away, just get Peters. No, he's off the project. All right, George Clooney, I'm gunning for him. Hey,
a lot of people probably have a Batman fetish. That's fine. I mean, Chase certainly did in the last film.
But yeah, that was Vendela Kursbaum. Of course, Nora Fries has been played by several people over the years in various iterations. Most notably in Gotham by an actress called Kristen Hager, whose other most notable role was in Alien versus Predator. Arnie,
and that one's not too bad compared to what comes after. So it's a moderately average movie.
In the Arrowverse, she was played by Cassandra Jean Amell, who was the wife of Stephen Amell, who of course plays the Green Arrow.
I was going to ask that. Yeah, I was going to say they related. There you go.
Yeah, and she's also Miss Texas USA. So much like Vendela here, also a model of sorts. And of course, the big one was Rachel Dratch, who plays her in the Harley Quinn TV show. Rachel Dratch, not as big a name over in the UK, but I know she was an SNL stalwart. And of course, she was originally cast as Jenna in 30 Rock.
Yeah. And
apparently then they just thought like, no, it's not testing well. So they brought in.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, brought in Jane Krakowski, and then because Rachel Dratch and Tina Fey are like, they had a 2-woman show together.
Well, they're like best friends, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. So it seemed like if you can't help but notice in the opening season of 30 Rock, the same woman appears in different parts every single episode. Yeah. It's kind of a running joke, and that's Rachel Dratch. But yeah, and then she also did a great job playing Nora, a much more overtly comical part in the Harley Quinn TV show, which is a great TV show, and I highly recommend that everybody watches it. You get to see her hooking up with Maxie Zeus down the line. So I'm bringing everything back. The chords are all connected now. Of course, then Batman starts to discuss exactly what's wrong with Nora.
Oh, yeah. And Freeze has managed to cure certain stages of it, which is genuinely amazing. And more reason why let him do his work behind bars. He's helping people here.
I do enjoy the graphics on the screen that are just like, it's just making it as simple as possible to understand, where he's just got like, the stage 1, cure found.
Yeah.
Find cure.
Just have a tick. Yep.
Stage 2, marginal. Stage 3, no cure. It's just like, we all know where we are.
It's quite a snazzy little bit of tech, this.
Yeah. Also, the dude got like the the outline of his wife is just very strange to me.
The arms look crazy long.
Yeah.
Maybe she has crazy long arms.
Maybe.
Who are we to body shame her crazy long arms?
That is true. That is true. Or maybe he likes her crazy long arms.
Yeah, maybe they got longer because she's been floating there for so long.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how it works.
She should have really wrinkled skin, like when you stay in the bath too long.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she definitely would.
Well, we're assuming it's water. It's probably not water.
Well, it's Bacta, yeah.
Well, maybe that was Wendela's thing, though. It's like, oh, she was known as the arms of Sweden. Like, oh, yeah.
That's a specific modelling thing. It's like, oh, she's got those long arms.
They call her Wendela, the arms of Sweden.
I don't think at this point, though, we know that it's McGregor syndrome that Alfred has. I know we know it because we've seen the movie, but I don't think that Bruce knows.
I don't think it's revealed yet, no.
Yeah, it's later on, definitely. It's got to be, right?
It just has that Dr. Horrible vibe of like, well, really, what a crazy random happenstance. Like, what are the odds of that?
This very, very rare condition.
Of course, while Batman's discussing all this, Ivy's, her and Freeze are plotting underneath the floor there. And Mr. Freeze says, in my weak condition, I'm no match for the Bat and Bird.
I love that line.
That's a really good impression.
So I keep thinking he says, I'm no match for the Battenberg. So it's like, that cake is the marzipan's too thick. I won't be able to eat this with my jaw like this.
Oh, come on. He's Austrian. He can eat marzipan.
Yeah.
That's kind of their thing.
Not as weakened condition, John. That's the bitter irony of it. It's like, normally would be, but like,
at my full power, I can eat a whole cake.
That's why he gets the diamonds. He's like, it just takes a big chunk out of it.
I have been waiting for this.
Because I've been thinking about it all week. It's like, I really want Battenberg. Dinner tonight, sesame seed chicken with a Battenberg cake after.
I support this. Yeah, go for it. That line is so good. And their plan, of course, Ivy's going to send Victor to get the diamonds, but she's going to fetch the snowy bride from above. Or is she?
Yeah, she is plotting already here. So
don't do it, Ivy. Don't do it.
It's not worth it.
But yeah, that's the end of the minute. Does anyone else have any specific minutes for specific notes for minute 75?
I've got one that I didn't get to bring up, and I think it's important. I have to say, earlier in the minute at the beginning, Batman. I think Dael mentioned it ages ago at the start of this episode. Brought up this dialogue, right? Robin says, I can't believe we were fighting over a bad guy. And his response, bad, yes. Guy, no. Now, why does he say that? To me, it's because Batman is very, very, very insecure in his sexuality. Because
you think it's the bat doth protest too much?
It's like, dude, chill. Like, nobody's dissing you. Nobody's calling you anything. He's like, let's make it clear. It's not a guy. Let's just get that out there.
That would almost lead to why they're so like, oh, great stems, oh, buds too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, very macho.
No homo.
Again, like in Alan Partridge when he's trying to blend in with the lads because he's not like that. So he's sitting there and
that's what. And you know what else that fits in? I was complaining before about later on when he's going to be like, bad girl, don't you mean bad person or bad woman? It just feels like you're going too far the other direction to prove that you're not sexist. And right now, you're going too far in the other direction to prove.
Exactly, that's his whole thing, isn't it? And it was quite a funny choice, I thought. Why do they need to point out that she's not a guy so adamantly? No.
It's also a weird thing too, where it's like, I've always been in my head that guy can apply to women as well, because people will say YouTubers will introduce videos with "Hey guys."
Well, that's twofold though. Now, one, that's more of a modern thing, and two, I would say, although I do it, loads of people do it, right? But it's technically kind of sexist because you are assuming that a male is the default.
Well, I was always in my mind. It was just like, it just applies to all people.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're a bad person because I do it. It's the way we've been trained to think. Yeah. It's kind of like you're assuming the audience is a man, unless proven otherwise, because we're taught that way.
People need to play it safe. Go with the Dael Kingsmill YouTube intro of Hello Humans.
Hello Humans, yeah, covers everybody.
Or you could just go, hello scumbags. That's what I like to do.
Although I kind of want that to alter the dialogue and it was like, well, why not Bat-Human? Well, why do I have to be Bat-Human? You get to be Batman. That doesn't make any sense.
Bat-Bloke would be cool.
That's the British counterpart.
Yeah.
Bat-Top Lad.
Let's do it.
Not even just Bat Lad, Bat-Top Lad. That's the picture.
All one word. People
know the level of quality.
Got to differentiate between Robin, who is a mad lad, of course.
But yeah, because Dael, Batman and Robin is reviled or revered in equal measure as the worst movie ever made by some certain segments of culture. We are asking the guests what their worst ever movie is. I know in textual speak, I asked that and then did a little follow-up, like just giving you a heads up in case you want to know. And you were instantly like, I know exactly what I'm going to say. And I internally was like, I kind of anticipated you would already know what the movie was.
Yeah. I'm so glad you've asked because, as we've mentioned, I have some very strong opinions. I need the people to know. I am somewhat of a connoisseur of bad films. Love me a bad film. I don't necessarily mean that I love them ironically, right? Okay. Because like I said, I watched Good Witch and it is one of my favorite TV shows. And I'm not watching it ironically. I love that show, right? I'm big into bad stuff. I own a DVD called Invisible Mum 2.
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Yeah, it's a movie wherein, for the second time, a mum turns invisible. She calls on her, like, Hell's Angels biker connections to save the day. At the end of the film, the husband and the son eat some cat food, and now they can only speak in meows. Like, that's the level of bad films that I'm talking about.
Bless.
But for me, my most hated film is not even something that most people would consider a bad film. I cannot stand Now You See Me.
Oh.
The magician heist movie. I was so in. I was so excited to just have magicians and heists. It's all I wanted. It's such a low bar since that's what the movie's about. But instead I came out so angry. By the way, I watched this movie the first time when a friend lent me the DVD. So I have been lying to her and pretending that I don't hate it for such a long time. But I hate it. Like, Omar used to have a series on YouTube where he would either, rave about a movie that he loves or rant about a movie he hates, and they all became rants because he hates a lot of movies. His rant about Wolverine Origins is incredible. It's a tsunami of rage.
I need to hear that.
And I feel like my opinion about Now You See Me compares to his rage over Wolverine Origins.
Even though it contains Home and Away's Isla Fisher. You're going to throw a fellow Aussie under the bus.
The only good scene in that movie is Isla Fisher's character looking like she's gonna drown in a magic trick at the start.
Yeah.
But then, actually she had escaped and it was all part of the magic trick. Guess what? The only reason that scene was good is because they almost drowned Isla Fisher. They screwed up and she almost drowned. And that's why it looked so real.
Because it was real. Oh, gee. I suppose if that happens and she's okay in the end, it's like, well, we might as well use the footage. We don't want to waste it.
Right?
You'd almost be obligated to use the footage. You'd be like, I didn't almost die for nothing.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge them the choice to use the footage, but I am just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing on the set of this film that you're like, we're going to put Isla Fisher in a tank and we will lock it? Like, who made you don't have to lock it. It's a movie. You can pretend to lock the...
No, we've got to do it for real.
That was what I was going to ask. Is your beef with it the fact that it's supposed to be magicians and heists, and then you're expecting actual, trickery, and then when you watch it, it's a big budget special effects thing, where it's like, I know how they did it. It's special effects.
Have either of you seen the film?
Oh, yeah. I remember it coming out.
Yeah.
When it was a big deal when it landed.
Yeah, that is part of it. Part of it is definitely that it's like, oh, this magic trick is, we've done visual effects bubbles and Isla Fish is floating in a bubble. I'm like, that's not a magic trick. That's just, it's a movie.
Yep.
Like, that made me mad. I was here. I wanted a little bit of Jonathan Creek. Like, literally just hire some, like, stage magician people to consult on this film, please.
Yeah, that's cooler.
But way cooler. But then the things that really get to me are that it's like, this is a heist movie with magicians, and that makes up maybe 5 to 10% of the film. Like, so little of it is heisting or magic. And then you've got the thing that really kills me. You've got this thing. Okay, spoilers for anyone who's really desperate to watch this movie and enjoy it. But I mean, you know, sucks to be you anyway, because you can't enjoy it because it's so bad. But you've got this plot line where Mark Ruffalo is some kind of a police figure who's hunting them down. And Mark Ruffalo, and blah, 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 skip to the end. Oh, it's a twist. Mark Ruffalo is actually the mysterious benefactor magician who hired all of these magicians to rob the place in the first place. All right? And you find out that it's because Mark Ruffalo's character's dad was a magician back in the day, and he died doing a magic trick because he locked himself in a safe and threw it in the Hudson, and he drowned. What? He drowned? So he wasn't a very good magician. But Mark Ruffalo hired these people to go after 3 specific figures. He hired them to go after the person who manufactures those safes, because he was like, the safe broke under the water, and so he couldn't get out like he was meant to. And it's like, okay, well, that's not on them. Safes aren't designed to have people locked in them and thrown in the river. So that's stupid. And then he goes after the insurance company who wouldn't pay out the insurance for it. And it's like, yeah, he locked himself in a safe and threw it in a river. You don't pay insurance for that. And then the third person he goes after is Morgan Freeman, because Morgan Freeman debunked his dad's magic trick, and therefore his dad was like, I have to throw myself in a safe in the river. And I'm sitting here going, how is this even remotely the plot for this film? And I waited the whole movie for this to be the reveal. This is the reveal. Plus, there are whole sequences in that film where Mark Ruffalo is like running after people that no one is there watching him. He doesn't need to be doing that because it's fake. It's fake. It's fake. He's the answer at the end, but he's still just like, when no one is there watching for no reason, he's like, I'm gonna still pretend to be a cop, even when I could be sitting down watching telly. What? I hate that movie.
I mean, I remember just been able to dismiss it very quickly. It's been like,
I'm so pleased for you. I'm so pleased for you, because I'm at the
I had
level
more
of
beef
hatred.
with the fact that the sequel was called Now You See Me Too instead of Now You Don't.
Now you don't! Why did they do that? I'm so angry. I'm so angry. But I'm at the level of rage where I know that I'm gonna have to rewatch this movie that I hate every 10 years, because I'm gonna have to keep my memory of it refreshed
so you can
so
talk
that my
about it.
hatred is justified. Because I don't want to talk about it, but when I talk about it, I have such a strong opinion that I'm like, I need to remember this movie exactly, because if I don't, people are going to call me out on it. But where I'm at...
Plus, as well, you know, you might, after a few years, you might start thinking, is it really that bad?
You could get a Purple Rain scenario where I rewatched it after a couple of years, like, oh, it wasn't that bad, actually.
No, I'm never going to think that. Dinotopia, one of the worst and longest films of all time. Every now and then, I still think to myself, you know what, it probably wasn't that bad. And I rewatch it, and it is. I have never once thought to myself, you know what, maybe Now You See Me wasn't that bad. It's just seething red-hot anger in my sternum every time I think about it.
I mean, to end things on a more positive note, we always do then bring people back from that fire burning inside them.
Yeah, you get
usually people don't get quite as enraged as you but also ask then, because Batman and Robin is also beloved by many people, what is a movie that you do love yourself that is considered by the general public to be bad, quote unquote?
See, now this one, this is much nicer, and probably a little obscure. Like I said, I'm a connoisseur of bad films. There's a movie that I'm not sure if you've ever heard of. It's called Vibes.
Oh, Vibes, the Cyndi Lauper.
Yes, Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum.
I was on an
Thank you
episode
so
of
much.
our friend Audrey Wolfman does a show called Speakeasy versus the 80s. And me and a guy who hosts the Mogwai Minute, who's on this show, Neil Brown, we went on sight unseen to talk about vibes. Neil notoriously hates a lot of movies. We're going like, look at the thing. It's like 8% in Rotten Tomatoes or something. And everybody on the podcast loved it.
I've only heard your episode. I've never seen the film.
It's a great movie.
Definitely watch the movie. I think it makes a great Halloween movie. There is something about it that's just like, it's got that sort of kid-like magic of Halloween night. Like nothing about it is actually particularly Halloweeny, but I think it's got sort of a good Halloweeny vibe. Vibe.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it's I'm so glad that you've seen it because it's just a wonderful little piece of cinema. I mean, some parts of it are obviously dated, but like, man, it's Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum are psychics, and they are hired by What's He Falk.
Yeah, Peter Falk.
To go,
Columbo.
Peter Falk. Yeah, to go, well, ostensibly to go and find his missing son in South America. Ooh, but things get intriguing from there. I mean, I probably should just spoil it, but it's so much fun, and I cannot believe that at the time people watched this movie and they were like, wow, Cyndi Lauper is terrible at acting. She should stick to what she knows. Don't be in movies. She did such a good job.
Oh, she's
She
fantastic.
was so funny in that movie. She was so good, and it makes me so. It's that same thing. It's the same thing as Alicia Silverstone getting a Razzie. It's like you just wanted to complain.
Yeah.
You came in with a preconceived idea and you decided to just stick with it, even in the face of being proven wrong. Because Cyndi Lauper does such an incredible. She smashes it, and it's just a fun time. It's a really fun time.
It's one of those ones you're seeing in these poor reviews, and you're like, Jeff Goldblum, Cyndi Lauper, and Peter Falk as like a trio. How could this go wrong? And you're like, it didn't go wrong. It was great.
Even if the movie itself was pretty bad, just them three alone sell it to me. I'm like, I'm on board.
Yes, and the fact that they're like, okay, well, Cyndi Lauper, she's a medium. She has a ghost whispering in her ear the whole
That's
movie.
all you need.
Jeff Goldblum, yeah, at some point she gets possessed by this German guy's grandmother. It's brilliant. And Jeff Goldblum has psychometry, so he can touch objects and see the history, but he does it in such a Jeff Goldblum way, so it's just erratic movements all over. It's so good. And it gets a little bit scary towards the end as well. I'm not going to lie.
But even I think because it has the classic thing of, the whole blockbusters used to do. We'll say blockbuster. It clearly wasn't a blockbuster. But
yeah.
It's just over the end credits. Then it has Cyndi Lauper did the spin-off single. So you have that hole in the heart. It's like, a hole in the heart.
There's a hole in my heart that goes all the way to China.
Yeah, just watching these credits like, this was great. The song's fantastic. Why did everybody like this?
Had such a good time.
Yeah. So I can definitely back that as well. So thank you for bringing up vibes. Dael, you're the first one to mention it on this show ever.
Yeah, I never hear anyone talk about it, which is wild to me because people love bad movies, and that one has such a weirdly star-studded cast. I can't believe that people don't talk about
love just Jeff Goldblum. It's like, why isn't him alone bringing this back?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh, great. Well, on that wonderful note, we will head off into the dark night. Dael, one more time, would you like to plug anything you're working on or just tell people where to find you?
Certainly, people can find me all over the internet by Googling Dael Kingsmill. In particular, I'm on YouTube. My channel there is called Monarch's Factory, but if you type in Dael Kingsmill, you'll find me. And I'm getting into live streaming on Twitch. And actually, if you like deep dives into movies from the 90s, I recently did an extended and definitely overthought deep dive into the 1995 Jumanji film. That was a really good time, and I'm hoping to do more things like that. So you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/DailyDale.
Hey, do come and speak to us on Facebook at the Batminute Listeners Cave, Twitter at Batminute, Instagram the Batminute, and go to our Patreon, Sleepy Charlie Media, our network, and join us again on Monday for more Bat Minute and Robin.
Yeah, all right. We're going to find out right now, right this second, whether I can do an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. My money's on no, but I'm going to try. All right, okay.
Next time, ice screams. 2 criminals in cahoots with the factory's roots. Wait, I gotta...
That was amazing.
This is incredible. 2 criminals in cahoots in the factory's roots scheme to salvage a spouse and a Zirconian loot. But as a hot and horrible horticulturist gets our heroes Honda for a kiss. Get the king of ice pops. Get the drop on some cops with the assist of an icy mist. The heat is off. Next week, Bat fans. Same Bat pod. Different Bat minute.
That's the best one yet.
That was so hard.
We'll be back.